Welcome to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast, where we explore the fundamental abilities and insights that make us better humans. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hi, everyone. Christina Eanes here. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast. Today, we have a special topic that I think you will truly enjoy. It's the Priority Living Framework. And for that, we are welcoming Bill Goodwin. Welcome, Bill.
Christina, thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to be with you today.
Awesome. Well, before we get into this priority framework, which I love, I think it encompasses pretty much everything we need to be able to live a fulfilling life. Can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners?
I would love to share my background. So I grew up in Arizona, and I currently live in Minnesota. I prefer the warmer weather than the colder weather, but Minnesota does have beautiful seasons. But my upbringing, I guess I'd say kind of a typical '80s kid growing up in the '80s in my teen years, high school years, and a really, just had a really, for the most part, very positive upbringing. When I was 15, maybe 16, 17 years of age, I have an uncle who really invested in me, saw potential in me. He was an entrepreneur. My aunt and uncle were in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they were small business owners, yet very successful. And they'd come out to Arizona, and my Uncle Tom was investing in me, saw potential, and began to introduce me to cassette tapes back then, and of Zig Ziglar and books from Zig and Og Mandino and other great personal development type people and business development people. And that really was part of my origin story of learning how to grow myself. And, the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better, Christina, is if we're investing in ourselves today. So nowadays, it's not so much cassette tapes, it's more podcasts and having a mentor in your life, reading books, going to conferences, that type of stuff. And so that's really been a part of my life for decades, because I really took early on when I was struggling to find my own identity, find my own purpose. I'm so grateful that I had my Uncle Tom, as well as other adults that began to invest in me.
I love that. Yeah, always growing, which is also a pillar.
It is.
But before we get into the framework, can you share, we'll call it your origin story?
So November 23rd, 1999, I was 28 at the time. Now I'm mid-50s. I was in Arizona driving to work on a Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving, and took our small family dog to the groomers. And while I was in the groomers a little longer than I had expected, I had grown up with some allergies and asthma-like symptoms, and I began to have an asthma attack, which I went out to my car for a rescue inhaler and wasn't getting relief, and began to get just really concerned, like, well, what do I do now? It didn't even come to my mind, like, hey, go to the ER or an urgent care. I didn't even think that. I just kind of panicked, and so I drove back to my house to grab my nebulizer machine, and in the next few moments, as I pulled into my driveway, and I was going in through my house, through my garage door, I cried out a desperate prayer, Christina. It was one that I had very little air left, but I just cried out loud, Jesus, help me, Jesus. And then I began to use that nebulizer machine in my family room. And my daughter was home from a Thanksgiving break for school. And at the time, my wife had gone out to run a couple quick errands. And so I called out to my daughter to call 911. And thankfully, we lived close to the fire station. And within a very short amount of minutes, the paramedics arrived to my house. And I ended up having a moment there after they came in where I blacked out. I'd gone unconscious, and my life began to pass really before me. I was seeing all these different scenes of my life in my subconscious, and I don't remember going in the in the ambulance to the hospital. I don't remember the time that I was in the ER or what all took place. I know that from my family room before I blacked out to when I woke up out of a medical induced coma state and intubated in intensive care, 9 hours had gone by.
Wow.
But yeah, it was quite extensive. But I do know that as my life was passing before me in my subconscious, after I'd blacked out, of course, I had the thought, "I'm going to die, and there's nothing I can do about it." And at the moment I had that thought, I remember the way I best can describe it is my spirit uh, left my body, and I was in heaven, which I outlined the whole story of what I experienced in heaven in my book. So
Yeah.
I encourage a listener to pick up the book and read the details of what I experienced when my spirit left my body in heaven, and then I was resuscitated, and otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And
Yeah.
so I've been given a second chance. And what I will kind of fast forward is that when I came to in the intensive care, I was intubated. My wife was standing next to my bed, and they gave me a clipboard, and I wrote, "I saw Jesus," and I had tears streaming down from my sides of my face. And then a few moments after that, I wrote, "I'm fine. Take this tube out of my mouth. I want to go home." Uh, and so I had received really a supernatural healing,
Yeah.
and as the medical team had resuscitated me as well. But yeah, that was an origin story for sure. That was a pivotal moment in my life where I began to be ever grateful for that. Truly, every day is a gift.
Absolutely. Yeah. And these kind of situations are just a huge paradigm shift, right? For really adjusting how we live our lives and what's important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've been living the priority framework for many, many years. So can you, and I love that you put it in a book for others to learn from it. Can you share a little bit about the priority framework? Maybe just an overview of the seven pillars, because obviously people are going to want to learn more and read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I never set out to write a book. I was just trying to figure out my own life and trying to understand why I'm still here when I had that experience. And so really over the last 20 or so years, one by one, I would discover for myself, like this is a piece that needs to be a priority in my life in order to make my life count. Now, I know, Christina, you don't have to die and be resuscitated to want to make your life count. I believe we all want to make a difference. But for me, it was one by one. I began to uh, find these areas that I was going to be very intentional about. That's kind of a key word for me, about living intentionally. And so over time, it really resonated with me, this term of priority living. And so over the years, eventually it became, this is a framework for priority living. It's these seven things. I used to call them seven things. I didn't even call them pillars at the time. And then eventually they became these seven pillars of priority living with a foundation. We have to build our life on some type of a foundation that we're going to put these pillars of our life on. And it's really about being intentional in order to make my life count. So, Lord willing, at the end of my life, whenever that comes, I can look back over my life and say, I really was purposeful in trying to make my life count by living these seven pillars. So the pillars you asked are, start with purpose. You always start with purpose, and I believe that purpose turns passion into impact. And so, even in the book, there is a QR code where you can take a purpose factor assessment. I'm a certified purpose coach with the Purpose Company out of Dallas as well, and I love coaching people to discover their purpose. So even in that chapter, there's 10 questions that the reader can really begin to look at their own life and begin to, get confirmation or get clarity on their own purpose. I believe that clarity precedes peace, and ultimately clarity precedes success. So I love when Mark Twain said, "The two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why. And so
Yeah,
that's why that first pillar is all about purpose.
absolutely. Yeah, I just a little. I throw in a little thing there. I took the purple the purpose factor
Mhm.
assessment from the book, and I love it. And I'm certified in several instruments. I really enjoyed this one. So just saying that's high praise coming from me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, maybe we
Yeah,
need to talk about you also becoming a certified purpose factor coach too. That would be great. And for
yeah,
anybody listening, if you're in that coaching space, I'm one of the trainers for the Purpose Company, and I would love to, first and foremost, just if you want to take that assessment, reach out to me. I'd love to take you through a debrief and show you how it all fits together with the direction of your life. And if you're in that
awesome.
coaching space, and you're listening, this would be an incredible tool to add to your tool belt as a certification as a purpose coach. So we start
Yeah,
with purpose. That's where the pillars start. Isn't that
yeah,
exciting? And I'm so glad, Christina, that you read the book and you took the purpose factor assessment. And that just means the world to me. So the second pillar is growth. That once we discover our purpose, now we need to be in a state of growing ourselves. You can't give away what you don't have. So that goes back to my story of my Uncle Tom. And throughout my life, I've been intentional about growing myself. And now, even in more recent years, connected with best-selling author and leadership expert John Maxwell, who's now one of my mentors and one of my coaches and mentors in my life. And it's all really about personal development and personal growth. So that's the second pillar, which leads us to the third pillar, which is impact. That we want to make an impact. I like to say, do small things and make big waves. So, how do you make an impact, and what does making an impact mean or look like? Because that's ultimately, I think, when we want to make our life count, we want to make an impact in some way. And so, I really unpack that in that chapter. Then the book kind of takes a turn with the fourth pillar, which is the pillar of rhythm. And rhythm is all about build a life, not just a schedule.
yeah.
And I think that I see many people going nowhere fast. So direction is more important than speed, and that's where we get the clarity from our purpose and growing ourselves. um, but also that there is a rhythm that we should be living in. And Christina, you're aware, having read the book, that I went through a time of complete burnout years ago, and just really was struggling with my life. And it was in that time that I began to really embrace this quote from a gentleman named Mike Breen, who says that we are to work from rest, not rest from work. And that's a
Mm,
paradigm shift. And I began to apply that to my life. And all these years now, I've been living a life of rhythm, and it really has made my life more meaningful, more fulfilling. That I do my best to live this life of rhythm, building a life and not just a schedule.
yeah, nice. And then we have three left.
We do. So let's dive in. We got explore, to chase wonder, adventure often, explore big. And I
Mm,
do work hard, but I also like to play hard. Life is not supposed to be work only. Someone needs to hear that out there that's building their career, and good for you. But you need that rhythm in your life so that you can explore, you can chase wonder, and you can explore the beauty of this earth and beauty of cultures and different people and connections, and have experiences, not just work. And just a quick story here. My mom turned 80 years young a few years ago, and a few months before her birthday, she said, I've always thought about going skydiving on my 80th birthday. I thought, Mom, you are the coolest. Like, that's amazing. Like, you should do that on your birthday. Well, then she said, I think I might, but will you go with me?
oh,
And now it all changed, right? And how I wanted to support her in her adventure of skydiving. Well, anyway, the day after my mom's 80th birthday, out in Buckeye, Arizona, we went skydiving together. And what an incredible experience! Like, I can't wait to go skydiving again. I've been looking in Dubai. I've been looking in different places to skydive. Obviously, there's risk involved. I do understand that, but boy, is there a thrill! And for those that
mm,
have skydived, they get it. It's just like you can't really explain it because there's nothing you've done outside of skydiving that is like skydiving. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's all about, living this life to the fullest. So then we get to the pillar of connect. Connect is all about relationships, where Esther Perel said the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your relationships. Boy, I find that over and over to be true. And so for the listener out there is a pyramid in the chapter where I talk about going from being, basically strangers with someone. You first meet them, and whether it's professional or personal, how do you move up that pyramid to have greater connectivity with people in your life? And so connections fuel the soul, and I believe that wholeheartedly as one of the pillars for my life. And then the seventh pillar and the last pillar is all about it's called give, and it's really all about generosity. That the more you give, the more you grow. And I want to live a life of generosity with my time, with my treasures, with my resources, and with my time treasures, and so on. Because I don't want this life just to be focused on me, myself, and I, but I want to be able to make a difference in the lives of others by living a life of generosity. So that kind of sums up the seven pillars that I'm intentionally trying to live in my life that I wrote about in the book. And I go into it in depth. There's reflection and discussion questions at the end of every chapter, and I believe that one or more pillar can help each person to make improvements to their own life.
I love it. Well, what is one thing from all of the pillars? You decide where we want to you want to take us, but one thing people can do today, like as soon as they're done listening to this, to help improve or have a more fulfilling life in these areas.
Yeah, I think that it starts with determining what your priorities are, and that's what we get into the final three chapters. We talk about how to set priorities. We talk about what's your foundation to your life, and we talk about how to leave a legacy. I believe when I coach people that we have to start with the end in mind. So
Yeah.
we need to think about we need to think in this case of your life. This is about living, not about dying. But I do think that we need to think about what kind of life do I want to be remembered for? What kind of, what do I want to be known for? What am I known for? And then shore up the gap in between those two. That's borrowed from my friend Jeff Henderson, who wrote a book all about that. But I do believe that for each of us right now, we can begin to think ahead and say, what do I want to be remembered for? And that helps us to then set some priorities. And
Yeah.
another thing that I would say you can do right away is you can begin to think about, how is your calendar getting filled up? Most likely you have a full calendar. I'm trying to eradicate the word busy. I call it the
Yeah.
B word out of my schedule. I'd like to be productive, but not the B word. Um, and so I would ask our friend listening, who's filling your calendar? Are you
Yeah.
filling your calendar with what you believe are your priorities, or is everybody else getting a piece of you and you have nothing left? So that would be something very practical you could do. And at the start of a new year, or any time of the year, is to begin to say, who's filling my calendar, and am I setting my priorities on my calendar first, or am I letting everything else overtake my life and feel like I have no room to live what I actually believe are my priorities?
Nice. Yeah, to live with more intention, right?
That's
And when
right.
you were talking earlier about impact, I was thinking about, there's so many studies that are like, nobody on their deathbed says, I wish I would have worked more, you know?
That's that's right.
And yeah, so really looking at, what are some of those regrets that others have, and what are some priorities? Who do we want to be, and how can we live that in our calendar, in our life, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I know people are going to want to learn more, and you have a lot of resources. Can you share a little bit about how to find the book, the other services you have, etc.?
Well, I even want to be generous here. I do have a free chapter you can get of the book. Go to the website, PriorityLivingBook.com, or you can go to my business page, which is for Priority Living Consulting Group. And That website is PriorityLivingCG.com. To be honest, both URLs are going to take you to the same place, but you're going to be able to, just give your email there and you can get a PDF of one of the chapters and get you started there. There is a link on Amazon. You can get the book on Amazon. Just search Bill Goodwin, Priority Living. It is in an ebook, a paperback, or a hardcover. And Lord willing, in 2026 here, I'm planning to do an audio version of the book. So for our audio listeners, that will be coming out in 26. So those are some opportunities there. And then, I do coaching. So if you are wanting to develop yourself more, I do personal development and leadership coaching. So if you lead others and you want to grow yourself as a leader, I do workshops with teams on a variety of topics, mostly around leadership topics. And I would love, those are virtual and in person that I offer. And I would just love to connect with our friend on the other end here, Christina, and let me add value to you and help you, elevate your life through a life of priority living and leadership.
Nice. All right. We'll make sure the links for that are in the episode description. Okay. Your final piece of advice for our folks.
Well, I would also add, go to my LinkedIn, or you can find me on Facebook as well. So those would be other places.
Okay.
You can find me just by my name, but I'm sure you'll put those links in there for everyone.
Yes.
So my final piece of advice, oh my goodness, I have so many things to share, but I'll boil it down. Christina, you are so delightful. I would say, I would say is that the rest of your life can be the best of your life. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter, honestly, what you've been through or even what you're going through today, my friend, that the rest of your life can be the best of your life. And I believe that you don't need a near-death experience or some kind of wake-up call like I've had to be intentional about growing yourself and, discovering your purpose and making an impact in this world. And I want to encourage you that, we are all elevator people. We're either taking people up or we're bringing people down. So be an elevator person that lifts others up, be an encouragement to other people, and receive this encouragement from me today that I truly believe that the rest of your life can be the best of your life. And want to encourage you to live a life of priority living.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
Transform your organization with Eanes Training. Our premier interpersonal skills training programs are tailored to enhance your organization's employees in communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, and more. We have a catalog of expert-led courses designed to meet the dynamic needs of today's workforce. With highly engaging in-person, hybrid, and remote sessions, we can help elevate your organization's performance and success. Learn more at eanestraining.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights to enhance your journey as a human being. Remember, practice makes progress. Keep honing those essential skills, and until next time, keep being the best version of yourself. For more resources, visit eanestraining.com.